We're back. Good. Good. Okay. Sorry that there was a technical issue we had right there. Okay. So we're back. How much time do you have left in case you have a places to go?
Not all that long, actually, to be honest. So
Okay.
in the next 15 minutes, that would be great.
15 minutes. That's good. Right. What would you say are going to be the most mind-boggling breakthroughs we get in the next 5 years or so? Is there going to be anything?
Well, I think the one we were just talking about, this business of designing proteins from scratch, is going to be very hard to beat. It's already, as I say, it's already coming. It's already in its first generation, but we will see it being used in the wild, so to speak, in anger, by drug companies and so on. And it's going to be completely transformative. I'm sure of that.
So the idea of
Um,
making new proteins that we've never
mm,
maybe even seen before,
mm.
could that, how's that going? What's that going to do? Like, will the body not reject some of these proteins, or are they going to
Mhm.
solve this issue? Are we going to?
Okay, so first of all, we always have a question of the response of the immune system to anything new. Um, but that's true already when we do gene therapy with foreign proteins and so on. And so we're already learning how to address that, how to tolerize the body to particular proteins. Um, However, yeah, really the main thing here is the ability to get new chemical reactions to happen that wouldn't normally happen, um, or to stop chemical reactions to happen from happening, to inhibit things. At the moment, we just have to work with the tools that are already encoded in the genome, and you can inhibit this or that protein. You might be able to to cause a particular protein to work better than it normally does, or to hang around for longer or something. But there are very strict limitations imposed by the fact that we're working with what the body already encodes. So, honestly, it's almost impossible to imagine the kind of things that could be done if we can just design proteins accurately from scratch. Now, I don't expect that this will really come into its own in the next couple of years because people are just going to have to learn how to operate within this whole new toolkit that they didn't have before at all. Um, but yeah, I believe that it's going to define medicine in due course. Apart from that, I think it's all about well, if I'm right that we can get very substantially more extension of lifespan in mice starting in middle age than anyone has achieved before. If I'm right that we can get to that point within the next few years, then that's going to change everything as well, because it's not going to just change everything medically. In fact, it won't change anything medically at first. What it's going to do instead is it's going to change everything societally, because it's going to be the trigger, I'm sure, for society to realize that we really are within striking distance of bringing aging under comprehensive medical control. And as soon as that happens, all hell is going to break loose.
You really think so? Some people
I
think
really think.
everything's naive. Hmm.
Yeah, no, really, I do. I mean, the way I look at it is you can't believe everything people say, but you can believe what they do. When I started doing this whole business and I started coming to the attention of the mainstream media 20 years ago, um, my my firm prediction was that I would be this, I would have my 15 minutes of fame. I would people would get bored of what I was saying because I was only making predictions. I didn't even have any data, right? Um, and people would get bored of me. And it didn't happen. And it carried on not happening. Basically, the appetite of society for this topic is insatiable. So we have to ask, why is it insatiable? And the fundamental answer is because it is what's in the back of our minds as the thing that we want most in the world. We do not want to get sick when we get old.
People want to
And
live and be healthy. It's so
they don't want to get
strange
sick.
that anyone has issues with it. So
And
strange.
it's not really strange because at the end of the day, when the reason we do get sick when we get old is something that we have no control over, no real insight into how soon we will have control over it, the only thing that you can do for most people is put it out of your minds
Or
by
try to
tricking yourself into
rationalize it.
yeah, tricking yourself into believing that it's some kind of blessing in disguise, or that it's, so woven into the fabric of the universe that we will never ever be able to do anything about it. Yeah, it's these irrational rationalizations, just as long as they work and you can get on with your miserably short life, that people cling to them. But the only reason that's true is because of the uncertainty about how soon it's going to happen. People are very bad about reasoning with uncertainty. So when you have not just one expert, but the center of gravity, the consensus of expert opinion, publicly stated, being out there saying, yeah, you know what, we've really cracked it here. This is coming soon with high probability. Then people are going to feel they've got permission to get their hopes up and to become emotionally invested in it, and that's why everything's going to change.
So, do you think that the protein folding will be used for evil? Are people going to be making new diseases and that sort of thing?
Honestly, it's too early to even imagine how it's going to be used. All I am basing what I said earlier on is the fact that the more tools you have, the more you can do.
Is
And
this
in
going to let
fact,
us fight diseases like malaria or like weird
every,
things?
yeah, absolutely everything you can conceivably imagine, and a huge amount that you can't imagine and that I can't imagine. It's the
So you
point.
could possibly
I just look at
regrow like broken body parts and that sort of thing.
totally, totally. I mean, the way I always think about this is I go back to how engineering works in general, right? The more tools you have, the more you can do. And it's not even linear. If you have one more tool, you can maybe do twice as much as you could if you had one less tool. It's
It's
exponential.
exponential.
Yeah. And the ability to create new proteins, to design new proteins, and to have those proteins be synthesized in the body by genes because protein synthesis is the same whatever the sequence of the protein. Um, you know, uh, you know, it adds a vast amount to our toolkit, and that tells me for certain that it's going to completely change everything.
Are we going to get to the point where the theoretical understanding of the body is sufficient to sort of obviate the need for practical experimentation?
Not for a long time.
Not for a long, even
Um,
with artificial intelligence. Not for a long time.
I think that's correct. Yeah, I think that basically, we're seeing enormous amounts of progress in AI, but what it can do is ultimately limited by what it understands, by how much data it has. Well, understand is probably the wrong word. By how much it knows about the system it's trying to manipulate or discuss or describe. And non-biologists often still don't really appreciate quite how spectacularly little we know about how the body works, about how a cell
Metabolism,
works even,
even the metabolism
or
is
even a
thing.
single, yeah, even a single cell, let alone the whole body or one organ. We're finding out really fundamental things still.
Really? Okay.
Well, yeah, I mean, um, yeah, I mean, think about the way that molecular biology began. First of all, we in the 50s, people figured out the structure of DNA, and from there, it took very little time indeed to figure out the thing called the central dogma that basically says that you know we make RNA from DNA and we make proteins from RNA. Um, but like it was like 30 years later than that before people discovered introns, which are these spaces within genes, um, which are fundamental to the way that the gene expression works. And even now we're finding out huge amounts about the impact on gene expression of the what's often called the higher order chromatin structure of cells. So that's the way in which the chromosomes inside the nucleus pack together and DNA sequences that are quite far apart on the chromosome, or maybe even on different chromosomes, come into contact with each other and interact with each other. These are things that people are only now, only in the past few years, developing better tools to analyze and to describe.
Another thing, yeah. So the new American administration, are they doing anything? No, they were appointing people and that sort of thing.
Um, um, I'm not holding my breath. I think that well, actually, I kind of am holding my breath, to be honest, because one thing that the previous administration, the Biden administration, did, which is absolutely critical, was the creation of this thing called ARPA-H, which is this counterpart of DARPA. So it's an agency within the government that's focused on doing really pioneering, groundbreaking stuff, and it's focused on health, whereas DARPA, of course, is a part of the military. Um, they've already gone in the right direction in a number of ways with the appointment of senior people who are very focused on doing something radical about aging. So, and there could be a lot of money involved. So, I'm quite optimistic that that may actually make a difference.
Mhm.
What we don't know is whether the new administration is just going to close it down. People are saying that that might happen. Um, then again, we've got people who think big in the administration. The only difficulty is we don't know in which direction they're going to be thinking big. So, for example, Elon Musk, who of course has um, uh, secured a very prominent role in the new administration, has said really quite um, unfortunate things about aging. So we honestly don't know where his head is on that anymore,
It's
right?
weird, his position on these things, isn't it? I think it's weird anyway. Like I would have thought that he'd be gung ho about
Um,
health.
yep, you're not the only one.
I mean, when people talk
But
about aging and curing aging, like why not just say health? Because that's really all you're working on. Who could possibly
well,
be
that's
against health? It's weird.
Well, that's exactly right. I've been, as you know, saying for a long, long time that the right way to talk about lifespan is that it's a side effect of health span,
Yeah.
and nobody wants to get sick, however long ago they were born.
So maybe we have time for a few more questions, or do you have to go?
A couple.
What are your favorite films or media or stories? I know you like The
Well, of
Man
course,
from Earth. I've heard you say that before. I love The Man from Earth as well. Like
right,
as
yeah. So
a series.
among all the movies written about a post-aging world,
Or just any movies, anything.
well, let me talk about the ones that are focused on a post-aging world because, you know, I quite like the Harry Potter movies. I quite like the Lord of the Rings, but that's not really relevant to this, right? Um, it's certainly been the case for many, many years that the movies that are focused on a post-aging world are a huge problem for me. Not just that I don't like them, but that they make my job harder because they entrench the pro-aging chance, really.
You depict it
They
as a
try
bad
to.
thing.
That's right. They always present the thing as dystopic. They make a kind of dramatic element out of some completely, unavoidable conflicts that occur as a result of not having aging. Um, uh, The Man from Earth is an absolutely sensational movie that puts non-aging in a completely different light, and that's the kind of thing that I want more of. I don't get the time to look at movies very much, though, to be honest.
Fair enough. Well, thank you for your time. Uh, is
Pleasure.
there, is there anything you would like to say, like where people can find you or that sort of thing?
Sure, yes, absolutely. I mean, I'm sure you'll put the levf.org website in your show notes. But yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm very keen for people to be aware of what work we're doing at LEV Foundation and how important it is, and obviously, if possible, to contribute to it or to encourage other people to contribute to it. I want to thank you for giving me this exposure. I always feel that the more audience I reach, the faster things will move. So thanks again, and Happy New Year.
You too. Happy New Year. Catch you later.
All right, bye for now then, John.
Bye. Thanks.